Story 1. I found better, more fulfilling hobbies as I grew up. I still play games occasionally, but only when there is a specific game that really caters to my interests. Story 2. Not at all. I am 31 and still enjoy gaming. There are so many options to choose from. It is like asking whether my passion for food has died. If I do not like one game, I just move on to another. Story 3. I wouldn't say my passion for gaming has died, but the types of games I play have changed. I moved from competitive gaming to sandbox and casual games. I don't find competitive first-person shooter games as enjoyable anymore. Now I enjoy titles like No Man's Sky and comfortable, casual, slow-paced single-player experiences instead of competitive lobbies. Story 4. I can't stay up late and play games, which is realistically the only time I would be free. It messes up my sleep, and I feel rough the next day. Story 5. I still play online against friends, but not as much. I am older and have more responsibilities. Story 6. I do not find it enjoyable anymore and have lost interest. Story 7. I spent a lot of time growing up playing games. At this point in my life, I feel I could have made much better use of that time to level up my character in real life. Not to mention, I am trying to make trading my career, and trading itself is very much like a game. Story 8. Modern gaming is almost exclusively designed to be hyper-competitive and profit-driven, and is no longer focused on creating fun, interesting experiences. My friends and I had given up on gaming until we returned to older games that are 10 or more years old and discovered it wasn't just nostalgia. Older games really were much better. Story 9. No, it has just changed to more relaxed, cozy games. Playing Potionomics and getting the right brew is bliss now. Story 10. It has not really died. It has just changed as I have changed. The game is much more story-based and less challenging, so I can experience it in a shorter time. I have been hooked on DayZ for the last 2 to 3 years, and I can dip in and out as I please. I bought a Steam Deck to enjoy my library in quieter moments or when I travel, but I rarely use it. Story 11. I am 44. I remember when you bought a game and were not nickel and dimed for every microtransaction, loot box, season pass, battle pass, and so on. I now play only independent games. I cannot remember the last AAA game I bought new. Story 12. Games have become too expensive and too much of a time sink. It used to be you could beat a game in a day, but now some take 40 to 100 hours without any multiplayer. I do not see the point in investing in a console or a gaming computer if I will only have time to finish a few titles per year, and there is no guarantee they will be enjoyable. Story 13. Yeah, games are just not the same anymore. The games I typically enjoy have been ruined by requiring players to keep up with subscriptions, seasonal content, and downloadable content just to enjoy the main game. Other titles that have not followed that business model still exist, but studios make us wait 10 years or more before releasing the next installment from my favorite studio, Bethesda. Story 14. It's not gaming anymore. It's glorified gambling with predatory practices that should already be regulated by law. Games are churned out with no real goal, just endless grinding or paying £40 to progress a little faster. Examples include Genshin Impact, Destiny, and Call of Duty. Gambling and grinding are covered up with a halfway decent story, and there is no innovation. No one is willing to step outside the norm because all that matters to BlackRock is money. BlackRock holds large stakes in major game companies such as Activision, Ubisoft, and Microsoft Studios, and I suspect they are a cause of the downturn in gaming. Story 15. Spending habits have changed over time. Game consoles are released with few games that interest me. The new model of 3 games a year, with 2 of the 3 being remakes or remasters, has killed my interest. Story 16. I got bored of it around 2012. I would start playing games but would lose interest before reaching the end, usually around the halfway point. This period coincided with my transition to adulthood and an increase in depression and anxiety, so it probably had little to do with the quality of the games and more to do with me losing interest. I still play the occasional casual game and enjoy cooperative games, but I have not owned any gaming-specific devices in the past decade. Story 17. I work in the gaming industry. It was my dream. Now I feel gaming is simply not the same anymore. Story 18. I don't have the mental stamina anymore. Even after I've resigned myself to single-player city building, colony management, or farming simulation games, it still feels like a heavy mental burden to start a session. Story 19. I used to like the Atari 2600, but then I discovered boys, and I strongly dislike those who play games into adulthood instead of playing with me. Story 20. The older I get, the games I want to play are geared toward playing with friends. Every once in a while I get a kick out of playing a solo game when a good one comes out, like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, and the Resident Evil 4 remake. Usually, when I play alone, I can only play for about 30 minutes before I want to stop. When my friends are online, I can play endlessly. We recently played The Hunter Call of the Wild for about 2 weeks straight because we all downloaded it for laughs. Story 21. As I got older, I realized the old industry that made games for fun or to tell a good story no longer exists. The legendary game developers I was searching for are gone. They moved on. If you look at games like Call of Duty, World at War, Battlefield 2, and classic World of Warcraft, the most recent entries in these franchises are not real war simulations, nor do they tell a decent story. They are copied from movies or made to follow whatever is fashionable. In shooting games, I see a decline in seriousness wherever I look. Poor performance, troubled launches, and the good feeling you used to have when waiting in line with friends to get your favorite game is gone. Nowadays, I still play old games to remember. I test new games, but I do not keep playing them. Story 22. Yes. I experienced burnout and never managed to get back into it. I mostly play mobile games these days. Story 23. There are too many buggy, repetitive games, so I enjoy playing the guitar more now. Story 24. Many AAA games these days are just asset flips from the same studio's earlier titles. Story 25. PlayStation gamer here. It did. Then I invested in Red Dead Redemption 2 online and now I'm hooked. Story 26. I still play Rainbow Six Siege sometimes because I have always liked first-person shooters. I was big into Call of Duty, but it went downhill because of cheating and pay-to-win mechanics. Once the new Grand Theft Auto is released, I will be playing non-stop for a while, so the passion is still there, but it is fading. Story 27. Burnout, microtransactions, battle passes, overly competitive player versus player games, and boredom killed my passion for gaming. Story 28. I went 4 years without playing. This year I finished Elden Ring. Story 29. Yeah, when I buy a game, I want it to be something I can just turn the console on and play at the drop of a hat. The last game I got excited about was Battlefront 2. But I was never a serious gamer, so I do not know how much my opinion counts. The only time I was truly a hardcore gamer was spending entire weekends on Black Ops Zombies with my cousin and brother when it came out. Story 30. Between work, the gym, and all my responsibilities at home, I have no time to play games. It feels like I must choose between being productive or sitting around playing games and then feeling like a failure because I accomplished nothing. It is frustrating, but that is life. Story 31. I would say so. It is just not as enjoyable as it used to be. Story 32. Microtransactions and the cheat industry. Millions of dollars are being spent on cheats. Story 33. Yes, I just got tired because of massive amounts of content and endless grind. And yes, it is Genshin Impact. Story 34. Absolutely not. I just started Armored Core 6. It's incredibly impressive. Story 35. I played World of Warcraft for 16 years and then Final Fantasy XIV, but I quit both. Now I randomly play some simulator games alone and feel miserable. I think I miss having a community on Discord, to be honest. What I do not miss is massively multiplayer online games taking up so much time that they are basically a second full-time job. Story 36. Friends I used to game with all have families, and I guess life got in the way. I recently bought the latest Xbox as a Christmas present for myself. Story 37. My enthusiasm for gaming has not died yet, but I think my gaming days are coming to an end soon. Mostly because I am 41 and I cannot find people to play with regularly. I have tried everything to meet new people, such as playing more social games like Sea of Thieves, Destiny, The Division, and Red Dead Redemption Online, and joining many looking for group Discord channels. Nothing has worked so far. The scary part for me is that gaming was my only way to socialize, and I feel I will spiral down when it ends. Story 38. I can solve puzzles and grind in a game or at work. One pays me, the other I have to pay to do. I hope one of them benefits society. Story 39. I miss the days when you could buy a game and it was complete. I also miss the camaraderie of the old-school mid-2000s when your guild or clan was a tight-knit group. Nowadays, with Discord, the floodgates open to thousands and everything is oversaturated. Those times were the best, but they are long gone. Story 40. I am experiencing depression and have no time because of work and parenting. Story 41. I don't have time for repetition or frustration anymore. I'm playing the Dead Space remake. I'm in level 6, about halfway, and I'm done. There's a flying section where I have to fly up to inject something, and after getting turned around a few times in zero gravity, I realized I don't want to continue. It's not just that part, the whole game feels the same. My younger self would have powered through. But if there are 12 chapters and Chapter 2 and Chapter 6 feel identical, do I need to play the second half? I heard great things about The Witcher 3, but I trudged through the tutorial with all the spells and combos, and in the first few battles I just didn't care. I shouldn't have to power through and learn complex systems. I don't have the mental energy anymore. I have a job, children, and a life. Don't get me started on Star Wars Outlaws. I got it free from NVIDIA graphics card maker when I bought my gaming laptop. Sports games are too complicated. You need a doctoral degree to figure out everything in Madden. Casual games often turn out to be tough platformers. I find myself only getting into a few games now, and not caring about most of them. The last two games I was really into were Days Gone and the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy. That no longer happens. I just feel bored and go through the motions, even with games I finished like Hogwarts Legacy and the Callisto Protocol. Story 42. I grew up prioritizing things that improved the lives of my family and me. Story 43. It's still there, at least I want it to be. I can only blame the industry for half the problem, but what I see now is no heart, no story. Content has reached the point where you hit max level quickly for the initial rush, then it's the same old repetition to progress further. I don't mind a grind, but when there are so few gameplay loops or options, it's hard to stay in one game for a long time doing the same things over and over. That leads to the other half of the blame. I feel like I've fallen in with younger generations, always looking for the next new thing and ditching the previous one quickly. With social media, everything is exposed to a vast number of people instantly, and it's hard to ignore popular opinion. Publishers and developers are also easier to call out for adding time gates, extra grinds, microtransactions, and other money-grabbing techniques. It's hard to stay interested in a game for long when all that is shoved in your face, but that's on me for listening to it. I found much more enjoyment in games lately by avoiding YouTube and Twitch when they're covering the game I'm playing. It's better to form your own opinion. Story 44. Battle passes, daily and weekly quests, and microtransactions killed it for me. It feels more like a second job than a relaxing hobby. And the worst part is that I am paying them to make it feel like work. Story 45. I wouldn't say it's dead, but it's certainly not what it once was. I consider myself very fortunate not to have been drawn in by gambling culture. However, I worry for younger generations because it is not treated with the seriousness it deserves. Story 46. I still play once in a while, but not as much as I did as a teenager. I realized I am just wasting my time accomplishing fake goals in a non-existent world. Story 47. Microtransactions have turned nearly everything into pay-to-play. Story 48. I worked in a game store for 4 years and was constantly bombarded with games. I now prefer to go out, play sports, and meet people. Gaming no longer provides that for me because I usually meet people who will just play all day. If that is your thing, go for it, but it is not mine anymore. Story 49. Depression from loved ones passing has left time and activities feeling meaningless. I am older and do not have many accomplishments besides finishing many games and making video game videos to help others. My friends have moved on from gaming, even though I am used to gaming alone. Story 50. I got into rendering for work and it scratches the itch better. Story 51. Yes. I haven't played the kind of games I really enjoy in years. They've become a distraction and a way to socialize rather than something I do for fun. My attention span is now kind of ruined for the things I used to enjoy. Story 52. I tried to get back into it, but now I only play chess and a few mobile apps. Story 53. No, I am having a blast with an incredible single-player experience, and 2025 is packed. Story 54. PlayStation 4 was too different from PlayStation 3, and I couldn't adapt. I downgraded back to PlayStation 3 and played until the buttons fell off. That was the end of my gaming life. Story 55. It has not died, but it has gone into hibernation. I guess I just needed a break from it because there are not enough hours in the day to sleep, eat, study, spend time with my fiancée, watch the shows I like or want to try out, shop, and so on. I do not know how you all do it without neglecting things. Story 56. Yeah, kids kind of killed the unpausable games like Call of Duty and Rainbow Six. After that, I ran out of games I found interesting because nothing new or inspiring seemed to be coming out. That was about 2 years ago when I finally stopped playing altogether. Story 57. I have grown old and miserable, so games do not hit the same way anymore. Story 58. Not completely, but it is worrying that fewer and fewer good games are being released. At least I have the Halo series by Bungie, Helldivers 2, and the new Space Marine game to enjoy, so I am happy for now. Story 59. I realized I do not game as much as I used to. Partly this is due to lack of time as I get older, and partly due to the direction of the industry. There are many microtransactions and games-as-a-service models which are not my cup of tea. Moreover, as Sony and other companies have shown, purchasing a digital game does not necessarily mean owning it. Companies can remove games at any time. Many consumers either do not realize or do not care that going all digital is harmful. In fact, it can have negative consequences. Unless regulators in the United States step in to stop these practices, which I doubt will happen, the situation will likely continue. Furthermore, games are getting more expensive while offering little innovation beyond improved graphical fidelity. Ray tracing has not been as revolutionary as the jump from standard definition to high definition. In my opinion, this console generation has been the worst I have experienced. I think the industry is due for a crash and a reset. Story 60. This is happening to me not because I found better things to do, but because I replaced them with depression. Story 61. I played Apex Legends and other shooter games from launch through Season 12. I played every day but was never very good. I was a total bot. I then got sucked into the mixed martial arts world, and that ended my gaming hobby. Story 62. It stopped working between 2022 and 2023. After I upgraded from the entry-level build to the high-tier build, it generated so much activity that I now have a large backlog. Story 63. I cannot find anything that holds my attention anymore. I used to love grinding games like World of Warcraft and EVE Online, but these days even solo titles such as Red Dead Redemption 2, The Witcher, and The Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim only hold my interest for about 10 minutes before I get bored and move on. The last game that really grabbed me was Little Kitty, Big City on Game Pass. I earned 100% of the achievements in that, and I did the same with the Bluey game. I like that blend of easy, casual gameplay while still being able to satisfy the grind by completing every achievement. Story 64. When I finally had the free time to play something, 50-gigabyte updates would totally kill the mood. Story 65. I wouldn't say I'm dead, but I'm on life support. I found a hobby, significantly less depressing than gaming because it doesn't feel like I'm wasting time. Story 66. My little brother and I would set the world to rights while chilling in a game and defeating enemies in Call of Duty and Fortnite. In Farming Simulator, we both had jobs and duties, and one of us would hitch a ride dancing and jumping on the other's tractor. For Christmas, we would buy each other the same game and complain about how awful Christmas is. We became competitive playing the Fédération Internationale de Football Association video games, but we especially loved it when one of us pulled off a random skillful goal. From our first desktop with no internet until 3 years and 11 days ago, gaming was how we bonded. When he passed away, I gave up everything because I felt like I had lost my twin. I just cannot seem to enjoy anything without him. He was the laughter, the memories, the banter. I couldn't get into Grand Theft Auto 5 when it came out, but he would still drive me around, congratulate me when I robbed a shop, and laugh when I crashed his flying DeLorean. In Call of Duty Zombies I would get lost, but he always came back to find me and revived me more times than any inexperienced player should need. I gave up playing music too. I have just sat in silence. Even socially, I do not feel I can be myself because I am always looking for him to talk to. Story 67. If anything, I have become more passionate about gaming. There seem to be a lot more geeky games now based on comics, films, or television shows. It feels similar to the PlayStation 2 days. Story 68. I loved playing Dark Souls 1 through 3 in my 20s. Now, trying Elden Ring in my 30s, I find it stresses me out and raises my blood pressure. I no longer find it enjoyable. Story 69. I don't think so, but I end up feeling bored during gaming or falling asleep. I am 37 years old and would like to play half as much as I used to. Also, I am doubtful about playing online for a few reasons. 1. Lack of skills. 2. Personal computer capabilities. I have only integrated graphics with an AMD Ryzen 7 5700G, so I cannot run Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, Delta Force, or Helldivers. Any game recommendations for this setup? 3. Unnecessary aggression. I do not want to discharge my frustrations on anyone or have anyone discharge their frustrations on me. Story 70. It almost did, but then I rediscovered Minecraft beta and the passion came back with a vengeance. Story 71. I'm not saying it's dead. I just expect every game now to top Red Dead Redemption, and only a few are on that level. I play other good games, but nothing is as good or will ever be as good as Red Dead Redemption 2. Story 72. I asked myself why I was optimizing a fictional character when I should be optimizing myself. I miss it, but I want to spend my time improving myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in the real world. Story 73. That's something I found myself struggling with. I think it's because of too much time on screen. After 8 hours in the office, I find it hard to sit down and focus on a game again. Story 74. It's not that the industry has died. It's that few games meet my standards anymore. Almost all games are full of forced microtransactions and poor software optimization. Kernel-level anti-cheat or digital rights management is often integrated into the game. Poor management leads to low morale at development studios. The industry is declining as a whole, and I have no intention of buying new games if they remain this bad. Story 75. Sometimes I have a hard time starting most games if I only have an hour or two to play. Story 76. I haven't lost my love for single-player games, but I find competitive multiplayer hard to enjoy lately. I'm 25, and after a long day, I do not want a game to go badly and have 16-year-olds yell at me, call me fat, or call me a bitch just for not playing exactly how they want. No thanks. I'll piddle around in Skyrim or pick up a new cozy game. Story 77. It is less about chasing achievements and more about experiencing new games with friends and family. Story 78. I am struggling with depression and trauma related to autism. I no longer have passion for anything. Story 79. I've moved on from many platformers and shooters. I'm mostly nostalgic for games like Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie, classic 3D platformers with basic puzzles. I also enjoy Life is Strange and Grand Theft Auto for their satire and modern world exploration, and Kingdom Hearts because I'm already too deep into it. Story 80. I'm getting older and a few things are changing. I have trouble concentrating and staying motivated. I have no one to play with, I feel lost with new games, and I am unsure what to buy. I am not a wealthy person, so I cannot waste money on games or hardware I will not use. 2 years ago, I spent thousands of dollars building a great personal computer. But now I only turn it on to install updates. Story 81. I mostly play Pokemon. After I finish the main story, I might try competitive play. I find team building tedious. Story 82. Yeah, I find it hard to stick with a new game and have since I turned 30. I think it is a mindset thing. You get into a rhythm of trying to stay productive, and I find myself gravitating toward hobbies that give me something tangible, a useful skill, or at least a craft I can show off. I do not have the free time or mental energy to learn new games. When I do play, I stick to games I am already good at so I can turn my brain off and relax. After going through Bloodborne a dozen times, you basically know it inside and out. Laughing out loud. Story 83. I used to get so entrenched in video games. I could get lost in anything for hours. Recently, though, I just cannot play anything for more than 30 minutes. I have no idea why, but I lose interest very quickly. It is puzzling. Story 84. Playing online games has been ruined by Smurfs. There is no point in competing in Rocket League if I keep facing toxic players who are carrying their lower-skilled gold-ranked friend. Story 85. Yes. I was forced to take strong dopamine antagonists for 3 years. Story 86. That was the case for a long time because all the games I wanted to play were expensive, such as Rule of Rose and Silent Hill 2. But with emulation advancing so much, I have been able to play many games I would never have had access to. Story 87. No, my preferences have evolved into twin-stick shooters and turn-based games as I have matured. Story 88. Every game wants you to pay to play online with other people. I do not want that. I just want to kill monsters. Leave me alone. Story 89. Nope. If anything, I love games more now than I ever did. There's always something new I discover that changes my worldview or brings a smile. My second favorite game came out at the end of last year, so I don't see my enthusiasm slowing down anytime soon. Story 90. I started gaming in the 1970s and it was a major part of my life. A few years ago, my interest vanished and I could not find anything to hold my attention. I subscribed to Game Pass and forced myself to play games I would not normally choose, and that helped for a while. Now I enjoy gaming through my grandchildren, helping them learn to solve challenges, introducing them to retro games, and playing the occasional local area network match. I have 3 grandchildren of gaming age, just enough to form a team in games like Left 4 Dead 2. Other than that, I think my gaming days are numbered. Story 91. I'm just too busy to play games. Nowadays, it's the laborious adult working life. Story 92. Personally, no. I have less free time these days. Story 93. Not really. I just don't play as often or have the time to sit in a chair for 5 or more hours gaming anymore. Games I played this year in no particular order: Stray, Dead Island 2, Scorn, Half-Life, Alex, Cyberpunk 2077, including the Phantom Liberty expansion, Days Gone, Stalker 2, Red Dead Redemption, RoboCop, Rogue City, Terminator Resistance, Silent Hill 2, Pacific Drive, Dark Forces Remaster, Deus Ex, Game of the Year Revision Mod. I quit several games because I wasn't having fun. Dying Light 2, Alan Wake 2, The Last of Us, which I had already played, Amnesia, The Bunker, and Ghost of Tsushima. There are several games I considered but didn't feel passionate about. Right now, I'm playing Indiana Jones and The Great Circle. After that, I have no idea. Story 94. I gravitate toward competitive games that I can play in limited time. Unfortunately, that means paying for services I rarely use. Story 95. No, I downloaded Cyberpunk and now have a city to burn. This is my game of the year. Story 96. I'm mentally tired and barely have time these days. My cat seems to think I'm ignoring her when I play games. So I have decided it's better to spend my time paying more attention to real-life things. Story 97. Unfortunately, I became too busy and burned out on it. Story 98. I suffered a traumatic brain injury and a stroke in 2021. While I still want to get back to gaming as I used to, I no longer seem to have the same passion for it. Before my injury, I streamed on Twitch quite often because I loved it, although I did not have much of an audience. After my injury, I never returned to streaming. There is a mobile game I would say I am somewhat addicted to, but for whatever reason I no longer get the urge to play personal computer games. I will play a console game from time to time, but very rarely. Story 99. I have been too busy. I started using my personal computer for work, and that killed my interest in using it for other things, such as gaming. Story 100. Not really. I have other hobbies I devote time to as well, so I don't play as many games as before. Story 101. A lack of time and my wife kind of killed it for me. Having sons brought it back, but as they grew older and became better than me, it faded again. Owning older cars that always need work has not helped. Now that I am in my 40s, I do not have the gamer focus anymore. Story 102. The extent of my gaming is my PlayStation 3 with 10 to 15-year-old games, my Nintendo 64 with my wife, Roller Coaster Tycoon on a personal computer, and a few mobile games to kill time. Modern games don't interest me and are too expensive. Story 103. The people I used to play with do not want to play with me anymore, so there is not much point. Story 104. I feel that gaming makes me antisocial, and I have less time to play as I get older. Story 105. It's like a second job for me, to be honest. I don't relax while playing. However, I still play games I once found interesting, usually only once to finish the story. There are fewer worthwhile titles, even in series I used to enjoy. For example, I am sure the new Mass Effect will be disappointing, and I will not play it, even though the trilogy holds a special place in my heart. Story 106. I still enjoy it on my Steam Deck or any handheld console, but I can't be bothered to play on a gaming personal computer or a home console these days. Story 107. I find myself replaying older games. New games are often full of microtransactions, are unfinished low-quality releases, require an online account and a constant internet connection, or I cannot connect with friends on the game's online platforms. Sometimes I need an information technology degree to figure out which driver I need or why I cannot install it in the system registry. It's exhausting. I just want to pay once and play a game that does not have a 60-hour prologue. Story 108. Nope, 48 here and still going strong. This is my zen and stress relief moment. Story 109. I still play games and enjoy them from time to time, but the passion is gone. Gaming is now a time killer rather than a passion. Story 110. I want to get back into it. It is just too expensive and I hate digital-only subscription-based bullshit. Story 111. In college in 2010 I started focusing more on school and less on gaming. I even did the unthinkable and sold my PlayStation 3. In 2016 I was teaching English in Japan and had free time over the summer, so I decided to get a PlayStation 3 again and play some games from my late 2000s high school heyday. I got a PlayStation 4 when Final Fantasy 15 finally came out. In high school, I enjoyed campaign first-person shooters like Resistance, Killzone, and Halo. When I returned to gaming, it felt like first-person shooters had largely moved away from campaigns toward primarily online matches. I tried battle royales like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Splitgate, but I wanted games with more substance. I played Destiny 2 for a while, but the focus on player versus player combat was not for me. I was very happy to find Titanfall 2, and it is still the most recent game I have found that feels like the first-person shooters I played in high school. I would like to play more games like that. I have mainly switched to Japanese role-playing games since I have not found many first-person shooters that do it for me anymore. Story 112. I now play Cities Skylines only about 3 times per year. My former career has become my hobby, and I have too many grown-up responsibilities to play games casually. I have not bought a console since the Wii. Story 113. I started playing the guitar about a year and a half ago. I miss gaming, but as I age I enjoy being able to play the guitar for 10 minutes if that is all I have for the day. Story 114. Yes. Gaming has become equivalent to a casino, albeit indirectly. Pay-to-win mechanics, microtransactions, and ranked queues are programmed like a casino. Everything now requires a subscription. Story 115. Sometime over the last decade, video games have started to feel like a job to me. I own about 10 unplayed games. The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Grand Theft Auto 5, Red Dead Redemption, and Red Dead Redemption 2. People keep telling me these are the greatest of all time, but they do not connect with me anymore. Story 116. It was more fun when I was younger. Things felt newer and more novel. As an adult who has seen a fair amount, is it worth the time to play something that feels repetitive, especially combat games or virtual experiences? Maybe not. It is kind of funny when developers offer recycled, reskin aesthetic content and charge extra for it. People pay extra for this. Food for thought. Story 117. I would not say the passion died, but it has significantly waned in the past 5 to 10 years. There are several reasons, But one of the biggest is that many games are too much of a time sink or have so many mechanics to juggle that they become a chore to play when other responsibilities take up your time. I have started playing many well-made games with excellent presentation, but they either feel like they hold my hand too much instead of letting me learn the mechanics, or they have excessive dialogue and long cutscenes that make them feel more like watching a movie. I have no issue with ambitious stories, but removing player agency for 45 to 60 minutes while the player cannot control their character is very frustrating. There is nothing more annoying than starting a game and not being able to control your character at all for the first 15 minutes. Mostly it is because other important things come first. Whether work, family time, or taking care of my home, my disposable time becomes more precious, and I fill it with productive activities like yard work, gardening, cooking, and extra sleep. As I have gotten older, at 38 years old, video games have been pushed aside in favor of other things, and my growing disdain for the evolution of modern gaming has accelerated that decline. Story 118. No, I have not. I am 34 and I have been playing since the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I am still struggling to finish games because they keep coming out so frequently. I love it. You just need to look beyond the soulless corporate garbage. I am not into Call of Duty. I do not like sports games, and I have never paid for downloadable content in my life. If you are into Japanese role-playing games, adventure games, or independent games, we are in an absolute golden age. Story 119. Either because of greedy companies or broken games at launch, developers no longer put the passion they once did into games. Story 120. Starting a game has become needlessly complex. The system updates, and you think you bought a disc so you can play immediately like with previous consoles, but instead you must download patch after patch. With other forms of media and entertainment, 2 to 3 clicks let you watch, comment, and so on. PlayStation and Xbox unintentionally punish players who are not active with long updates. Story 121. I just realized there is a lot more I could be doing that I enjoy and that does not rely on wasting my time or money. These include drawing, two-dimensional animation, woodworking, which is expensive but not wasteful do-it-yourself projects, and spending time with my family. I still play video games occasionally, but my leisure time is much more diversified than just sitting and gaming. Story 122. Honestly, pretty much. I play for a few hours a week. They are all single-player games with a pause button. Whenever my toddler says, "Hey Dad, come look or come play. Dad, I need help," it kind of kills gaming. Story 123. My closest friend stopped playing. I only play now to pass the time. Story 124. Yes, because there just isn't enough time in college to game that much. It's fun, but I'd say that gaming is more of a holiday activity for me. Story 125. The hardest realization for me as a gamer came at the end of a long Counter-Strike binge. Nothing is ever accomplished. It is the same mission in identical imaginary spaces, and you just die over and over. You feel an overwhelming desire to get better at the game, and you work at it for a long time. Then you think, why? Who am I going to impress by being the fastest clicker? I have nothing in the real world to show for all that time and effort. Fuck. Story 126. It's not really a passion but more of a time killer now that I'm older. Story 127. I am 38 years old, married, and have 2 children. I have been gaming since I was 5 and I am not going to stop now. Story 128. One half died for me, and that is the multiplayer side. I used to be a huge fan of first-person shooter and cooperative games, but as I have grown older, I have lost patience for them. I want to spend less time arguing with people I do not know online, and the trend of poor online games from companies has put me off multiplayer. I mainly play single-player games now, and I enjoy them. It is relaxing. Story 129. Multiplayer games, especially live service titles, often get patched into poor condition within 2 updates by top-down management trying to chase their competitors' success. Story 130. It is a combination of the high cost and having a child. My resources go elsewhere these days. Story 131. The passion is alive, but the free time to explore it has died. Story 132. It has been a slow burn for a few years. Work got in the way, friends are switching between games, and it is not as easy to get everyone online at the same time. I love gaming, but I miss the social aspect. Story 133. I've been playing the same games for the last 10 to 15 years. I'm not bored of them, but I'm less motivated to play. I can't play for hours on end anymore. It just gets boring. Story 134. The passion is still there, but several things prevent me from playing as much as I did when I was younger. 1. Games are bigger and longer. I cannot commit as much time now that I have a family. 2. Games are harder. I am getting slower and less determined to get good because I lack the time and patience. 3. Games are more demanding. I cannot keep up with the hardware requirements and do not plan to spend much money on something I rarely use. For these reasons, I can only play shorter, easier games these days. In certain gaming circles, I would probably be called a non-gamer. Story 135. I got burned out and didn't play for years. I returned a few years ago and have been playing seriously since. I think it helps that I rotate among my hobbies. Gaming, reading books, and manga. Story 136. I think gaming was something I did only because my family was too controlling and did not let me go out much. I am 22 now, and since I was 18 I have not enjoyed video games as much. Story 137. I recently picked up a PlayStation 5 with 6 great games. It is pretty awesome, but sometimes I get bored with it. I am trying to keep myself interested in it. Story 138. It's fun, but I find that more often than not I am just not in the mood to boot up a game. Story 139. Not entirely. The games I like are no longer being produced. I guess I am getting old. Story 140. Yes and no. I still play to kill time, but that is pretty much all it is now. I do not look forward to it the way I used to. Story 141. I have no time. I guess the passion hasn't died, but it's overshadowed by going into work the next day, fatherly duties when I get home, and then going back to school. Story 142. I can see my enthusiasm slowly dying because most games reuse the same mechanics, gameplay loops, and empty worlds. I can instantly tell a low-effort game from a high-quality one. My passion hasn't died. My taste in gaming has changed. I know what I want, and I'm sick of predatory practices and gimmicks that manipulate children. I'm also tired of repetition. For example, I used to love Naruto and Dragon Ball Z fighting games, but now they are essentially the same game with only minor changes. I cannot understand how people keep buying each release and calling it the best thing. Story 143. I have more important things to do than shoot people in Call of Duty, at least for now. Story 144. I hate the word passion. It derives from the Latin word for suffering. I have never enjoyed gaming enough to suffer for it. I am in my late 30s and still play video, board, and tabletop games as much as I ever did. For video games, play has shifted mostly to single-player games because I have a child and do not have the flexibility or the reflexes for online multiplayer anymore. For board and tabletop gaming, I have shifted to virtual platforms such as Roll20 because it is easier to coordinate schedules. Story 145. I do not have the money for a new console or a personal computer. I have not lost my passion, but you can only go so far on a PlayStation 4 without an online connection. Story 146. I wouldn't say it died so much as it changed. A long time ago, I was passionate about being the best I could be in certain games. When games forced me to participate in team or group-dependent activities, it changed how I play. I don't want to be the best for the sake of being the best. Instead, I want to complete everything, and if people need help, I offer it. However, my stubborn self will do my best to play games designed for co-op as well as I can solo. Nothing should hold me back or sidetrack me other than my urge to do everything and collect all the items. What's with ranked shooters? Nah. Give me a peaceful game with 8 billion random quests and collectibles. Why? Because I don't want to deal with other players. Let me play a game that challenges me without forcing me to interact with others. Story 147. Yes, but it has come back, along with my love for cars. It all started with the purchase of a Toyota Gazoo Racing Yaris. I got the Yaris in 2021, which reignited my passion for cars and driving. It had been many years since I owned an exciting car and even longer since I played games, mainly car racing. I took my car on a couple of track days, But after some reflection, I realized I enjoyed actual on-track competition, not just hot lapping. I thought about getting back into karting, building a race car, or racing my Yaris, but all of those would cost many thousands of dollars. I looked into simulated racing and found e-racing, which I had heard about but never played. I signed up for e-racing in March 2022 and have been hooked since the first race. The competition is excellent. It stirs my competitive nerve and is something I can really focus on and get better at. The community is great and filled with passionate people from all over the world. I spent a few $1,000s on a sim rig, pedals, personal computer, and so on. But apart from my car, it is the best thing I have spent money on. I can't see myself ever not doing it now. Story 148. I still enjoy it, but any competitiveness I had about my rank is non-existent. I am the filthiest of casual players in unranked matches now. Story 149. I am 35 now and do not have the time or energy. The PlayStation 5 is very expensive, and the games are expensive too. New games are not as good, at least the ones I used to play. Fédération Internationale de Football Association, FIFA, and similar titles are just pay to win. Story 150. I am 46. I gave up 3 years ago when I finished my last game. Now I pick up a few games, but I have no intention of advancing any plot. It is too tiring for my mind. Story 151. It hasn't died. There just aren't any games I want lately. I'll get Grand Theft Auto 6, but I'm not excited about it. It's more just something to play. There are 0 games on my radar that I'm actually excited for. Starfield was the last one, and before that I don't even remember. I was semi-pumped for The Division Heartland, but that got cancelled. I mainly follow major Bethesda games, so I'm just waiting years to get a new The Elder Scrolls game and a new Fallout. Story 152. If I play online, it feels like I'm babysitting. I play survival and base-building games offline so I don't have to deal with kids destroying things. Story 153. There is just too much drama. You would think a group of 25 to 40-year-olds playing games together for fun would act like grown-ups, but my old Discord servers could easily be scenes from One Tree Hill, High School Musical, or Glee. Story 154. Not at all. With small kids, there is only so much time in the day, and I can devote little of it to gaming. When they get a little older and can play too, it will be so much fun. Story 155. Biological changes can reduce your competitiveness as you get older. Story 156. I thought so. Then I started Subnautica. I am also really enjoying Star Trek: Resurgence. I am only partway through, but it is like watching a good Next Generation episode one have never seen before. Story 157. My children and career have taken most of my time, and what I seek in the small amount of free time that remains has changed. Story 158. It hasn't died, but it has slowed down quite a bit. Most games are terrible. That is why. The few I like are mostly single player, and I've already finished them. I also stopped playing daily. Story 159. Yes. Ever since free-to-play became popular, I have found myself repeatedly playing the same games. I used to like the concept and enjoyed the new seasons, but now I am kind of bored with them and too lazy to try new ones. Story 160. For AAA games, yes. Bigger games rarely take risks nowadays, and they tend to feel blander as a result. I gravitate toward quirkier indie games because they are much more interesting. It also feels like the developers have created something they genuinely want people to experience. Story 161. There was a time when I thought I was losing interest, but it turned out that I have very specific tastes. Playing new, shiny games just because they are popular is a waste of time if the game does not cater to your niche. Now I ignore about 98% of releases and only buy games I know I will enjoy. Strangely, they are almost all Japanese games. Story 162. I enjoy online gaming, but I also love many other types of games, both old and new. Story 163. I miss one-and-done games. You buy the game once and keep it. No downloadable content, no buying costumes. Story 164. I lost interest in it. I found and grew a love for the outdoors. I'm a hiking bear now. Story 165. I used to love it. I'm not joking when I say I beat Super Mario Bros. One-handed. Looking at the screen upside down the summer, I broke my arm. Games are not as fun now. I feel like I'm wasting my time. Story 166. Time. The 40-hour workweek is exhausting. Juggling hobbies and interests while trying to stay physically and socially active leaves simply not enough time. Feels like killing Bing Bong from inside out. Story 167. Time is my constraint. Also, if I play a competitive game when I am tired from work and so on, I will just lose badly, which quickly makes me stop playing. Story 168. Absolutely not. With age comes experience, so after playing so many games, it is harder to find one that surprises and captures me. Age also brings responsibilities, so it is harder to find the time to dive into a video game the way I used to. The passion has not died. It simply has fewer opportunities to surface. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.